Hey my friends, what's up? It's your buddy Phil here. I wanted to talk to you really quickly about some of the things a lot of people miss as they study. And the major pieces that I find people missing when they study is the soft stuff. You've heard me say it before. The soft stuff is the tough stuff. The stuff that people tend to glaze over, that's the stuff that's hard. That's the stuff that's flung at you on the exam. Did you know that? Let's start off talking about stakeholder management. The four processes of stakeholder management, I'm telling you, they're vicious. They may come across as innocent and easy, digestible. No, they're not. No, they're not. If you do what you are supposed to do, you'll realize that this could get you in a tangle pretty quick. Stakeholder management can be pretty confusing if you don't have it straight. Straight from identified stakeholders, the way there's overlap between data gathering, data representation, data analysis. If you do not get it straight, pinpoint precise what you're doing when and what it's called, you'll find it hard on the exam. What about planned stakeholder engagement? What is the minutia there? The stuff that you think you know, you don't really know until you've dug deep. Until you've dug deep into that stakeholder engagement assessment matrix and really boiled down all of those categories, my friend. Until you have tried to imagine and build on the meager paragraph that the PMI threw at you in the stakeholder engagement plan, until you really dig deep throughout the pen book guide, trying to unravel, okay, when we say planned stakeholder engagement, what are we really doing? Because what the PMI gives you in that paragraph is so lackluster, so dull. You're going to have to remember, a major part of this is the stakeholder engagement assessment matrix. And this is what that does. And you're also going to have to remember all of the mentions of the SEAM. I call it the SEAM, the SEAM, Stakeholder Engagement Assessment Matrix. You're going to have to look for the SEAM, the theme of the SEAM, my friends. Some of you don't know that the SEAM has a theme in the pen book guide. You've got to find the theme. Right from where it's mentioned at first, there is a thread throughout communications and stakeholder that refers to the SEAM. You've got to be shoveling this stuff and digging deep. You know, like when you're looking for treasure in the dirt. That's what I'm talking about. Some of you aren't finding themes in the pen book guide. This is very important, my friends. What about managed stakeholder engagement? Those tiny little mentions of things that you may see once, like ground rules and things such as that. You really have to be on top of those things. Monitor stakeholder engagement, same thing. You gotta be on top of it. You gotta be on top of it. Okay? What about communications? The same thing with communications. Plan, manage, monitor. But there's a boatload of stuff hiding. For example, your communications management plan has a lot of detail. If you open up to where that is discussed, you'll find things that you probably wouldn't have thought of, like flow charts, communication flows, things like terms that are commonly used on the project, like a glossary of common terms. All this stuff, there's a lot of that and more. So don't just say, it's a plan for communications. No, you've got to go into the details. The devil is in the details on the exam. That's where PMP is hiding, I'm telling you. What about managed communications? Do you really know what you're doing when you say, WPR is an input here? Do you know why? Do you really know that you're also creating ad hoc reports? Have you come across that? You see, don't just breeze through the guide. Find the gold, find the themes. Find the themes. I showed you a few weeks ago, Latoya's PMBOK guide. If you haven't watched that video, go look for Latoya's PMBOK guide. Go find it. She marked up that thing pretty bad. And then go look at the video where I show you how she did page 25. That's what I'm talking about. Some of you are just breezing through the guide without stopping, shoveling, digging, going deep. Some of you are trying to pass the exam and you don't know more than your instructor does. I expect you to know more than I do. I expect you to know more than I do. Because you are the boxer in the ring. I'm the coach. You don't expect me to last 12 laps around the ring, but I expect you to. 12 rounds around the ring, 12 laps around the track, whatever you want to call it. You know what I'm talking about. Some of you aren't doing what you should. You're doing Mickey Mouse study, goofy study. That ain't gonna get you anywhere. Okay, you gotta boss up and become a prof of the content. You need to be able to give me a solid lecture. You know, and I'm not talking about just surface stuff. There's a lot of surface, peripheral stuff that's being taught in these courses. It's just a joke, you know. One of my students who passed the exam recently said, "Fail if not for you." I don't know where I would have been because I failed this thing before because I was just eating surface stuff. I wasn't going deep. In other words, my instructor, she was just regurgitating the PMBOK guide. That's what this student told me. There's a difference between regurgitating the PMBOK guide versus going deep. You know, you got to go deep, my friends. Monitor stakeholder engagement, monitor communications, the differences. Manage communications, manage stakeholder engagement, the differences. I've got videos out there to help you. All right, don't stay on the surface, my friends. You got to go deep. You got to do the difficult stuff. Studying, if your studying is a breeze and it's so easy, you're probably not doing something right. There's a difference between easy and enjoyable. It could be very difficult but enjoyable. Like right now, putting in the pain to find the gain. It's painful. I've just gotten off a flight and here I am in the gym trying to crank out stuff because I know if I don't, I'll become like a round old pumpkin. Some of you have left your PMBOK gym and you're not getting anywhere. Some of you are like a pumpkin. You're round. You're round as far as the PMBOK guide health is concerned. I wish I could show you here a sign in this gym. It says October is the month of the pumpkin, but that doesn't mean you need to look like a pumpkin. You're given a workout around the PMP. I don't know if you can see it, but it sounds funny, but it's what you can take and put into action in your prep. You ain't got no excuse, my friend, if you've paid PMI. Hey, let me give you some coaching here for a quick second. How much do you earn at work per hour? Okay? How long have you been studying for the PMP exam? Some of you have been studying for like 40, 50, 100 hours. Multiply what you make at work by 40, by 50. Some people say, Phil, I make $30 an hour, I make $20 an hour. All right, multiply $20 an hour by 100. Do you see? You've already put in $2,000. Why wouldn't you see it to fruition? Why wouldn't you go the extra mile? Some of you earn $50, $100 an hour. I know, some of you do. And when you multiply that, you're talking about 5 grand, 10 grand. Some of you put in a boatload of hours and you're not doing what you should to bring this ship to a landing. It's sad. It's sad. Let me ask you this question. What are you going to do about it? Now that I've revealed it to you that you're just hemorrhaging your time, hemorrhaging equity, tell me what you're going to do about it. Tell me. Write it down. I want you to make a commitment to yourself that you're going to put this thing to rest. Finally, whatever you need to do to put in the time, to put in the effort, put in the energy, I want you to commit to doing it. Okay? Take a pen or paper, commit to spending whatever you need to do. Additional money, additional time, additional effort, whatever you need to do, do it. You know what some people tell me? They say, Phil, I've already spent $100. I can't spend any more. Okay, but if you know that an additional $100 is going to validate the 100 you've already spent, it's going to validate the 5,000, 2,000 you've already spent, why don't you get help? I've come across a lot of students who just needed the extra kick, the tiny extra nudge, and they sign up for programs and they're PMPs today. They're not even thinking about that crummy 500 bucks because they've saved thousands of dollars more. And time, you know, time is money. You can't even put a price tag on time, you know? And that's why when I look at some folks who spent 100 hours, 200 hours, and they're on the treadmill today, off tomorrow, they don't know the theory of the game. They don't know how it works. I feel bad for them because that is sweat equity. If you put in time for this exam, you owe it to yourself. You owe it to your family, your loved ones, but most especially yourself to get it done. Some of you owe it to your company. Enough said. Study the tough stuff. Don't play around with it, okay? So this first video is all about stakeholder communications. You got to rip them apart so that when you find them on the exam, you'll know exactly what these tricky question writers are trying to ask you. Do what I'm asking you. Those of you that need to be on my courses, those of you that need to be coached by me, trained by me, those of you who need to be on that blended training Emily and I are having, you better get on it. Get on it right away.